Hello friends, welcome back to Strategic Management, and we are pursuing the design and strengthening of strategies. We were talking about corporate level strategies, and now we are moving towards companies' competitive position and how to strengthen that strategically. There is one thing which you would have realized in past few discussions, that the main philosophical backdrop of all the discussions, that backdrop is related to red ocean perspective, that is competitive fierceness, wherein we are focusing upon beating the competition. Although I am trying to put up a parallel condition in front of you, that if somehow it could be seen with the perspective of blue ocean, then what would be the changes and what can be done specially. That parallelly I would keep on doing, but I would also suggest that you also try to focus upon both the philosophical orientations simultaneously, along with several other kinds of philosophical backdrops which we have discussed, like fortune at the bottom of the pyramid, environmental sustainability framework, development as freedom, and so on, but especially red ocean and blue ocean demarcation. For example, if we say that core competency and diversification has to be seen with the perspective of competition, then I would strongly suggest that look at it if somehow diversification can be seen with the perspective of blue ocean divergence or perspective or philosophical backdrop. I prefer to call it philosophical backdrop, because somehow it is a different standpoint, looking at things from a different standpoint or that side. Now going ahead with our discussion within the competitive landscape, and I would keep on referring to beyond competition as well or blue ocean as well, but here in this discussion and the subsequent discussions, the major concentration is towards red ocean perspective, wherein we would be talking about how offensive a company can be, how defensive a company should be. Ultimately, we started our discussion with the perspective of strategos, strategizing with the perspective of a general's point of view. Strategos is a designation wherein a general thinks in terms of how to beat the competition, how to win the war, how to stay ahead of the enemy. So that is the perspective. And you see, when the fierceness in business rises, when you are scaling up, when you are going high, and you want to win over the world, the largest, you want to be the largest, you wish to have so many customers in your sphere, then at that particular point of time you definitely think in terms of beating the competition, you think in terms of being offensive, or many a times if you are not able to do that, then you are slightly defensive and you focus upon the timing of being offensive and being defensive as such also. And then you try to vertically expand or horizontally expand, you wish to develop the scope for that, and then you try to vertically integrate, horizontally integrate also. For that, if you do not have those kinds of capabilities and capacities, you try to merge with other organizations, two organizations that decide to come together and merge their existence and become one, because ultimately they feel that if they merge, they will beat the competition altogether by coming on the same sides. It's elections going on in India at this time, and 19th of April, the first day of voting this election season would be there, and with all due regards and respect, so many political parties, they are trying to merge with each other with the perspective of that they would beat the competition. So similar kinds of things, it's today it's 18th of April 2024 when I am recording this session for you, and tomorrow 19th of April 2024 it's voting in my region. So many political parties, they are thinking in terms of a fierce competition. Similar kinds of things, competition is competition, similar kinds of things happen in business when organizations they do that. Then many organizations, they acquire other organizations, many organizations they go for joint ventures, many organizations they take over the other organizations, and so on, and we will be talking about that in our subsequent session and so on. So but the mainstay is competition, although I would, as I said, I would keep on parallelly drawing a picture in front of you with terms of blue ocean perspective also. Strengthening a company's competitive position is related to some strategic actions. Now again, authors, they have intelligently mentioned about these things or these steps which we are going to talk about as strategic actions, strategic steps. As I said, strategy is a long term path divided into several strategic steps at different kinds of levels, corporate, business and functional levels, and how to actually strengthen those steps, strengthen those actions through complementary actions. Let us see what happens. So, there are strategic actions apart from choosing from the 5 generic competitive strategies, and competitive strategies, as I am referring to, this is mainstay, this is mainly related to those, and we have talked about those cost differentiations, focused cost differentiation and so on. So, that is how. So, there are strategic actions a firm can take to complement its competitive approach, and these are complementary in nature, these steps. Complement its competitive approach and maximize the power of overall strategy, maximizing the power of the blow, the fierceness, the opposition. You're in a battlefield basically, what to do. You would have seen that in movies, basically war movies, and have you seen that, do you remember that scene from Bahubali? Basically both the groups are standing in front of, both the armies are standing in front of each other, and they are strategically foreseeing that how to hit the other other army and so on, and the general commands on some kind of a signal, and they start throwing the bombs, you may say those as bombs basically. So fireballs actually. So that is the perspective of. So strategic moves are of two types largely: offensive strategy and defensive strategy. I have been mentioning this time and again that many a times we do not have option other than to call actions or steps as strategies themselves, but strategy is a long term path. So strategic steps are also to be called as strategies, or you may call those strategic steps or strategic actions. Here in this case these are strategic actions, offensive strategic action, offensive strategy. So we should not be getting confused on this, these are actions. So offensive strategy and defensive strategy. So first we will talk about strategic moves, then we will talk about the timing of the strategy, and then we will talk about the scope of operations associated with these strategic moves. Offensive strategic action. Offensive defines itself, being offensive. Strategic offensives are called for when a company spots opportunities to gain profitable market share at its rivals' expense, or when a company has no choice but to try to whittle away at a strong rival's competitive advantage. To witness these kind of things, I would definitely suggest that you view YouTube videos of Coke and Pepsi advertisements, Pampers and Huggies, those kind of competitors who have been fighting fierce wars against each other. So I remember when there was a cricket World Cup, and one of these Coke or Pepsi, they were the official sponsors, the other said nothing official about it. You see, when a company spots opportunities to gain profitable market share at its rivals' expense, I don't know if that was related to gaining they did gain market share or no, but they were offensive, nothing official about it, and they said official partner of World Cup basically. So they were trying to suggest their positions, they were trying to hit the other competitor basically, and you see that is what they do. One retailer you would find Coke, one retailer you would find Pepsi, and they would come up advertisements. Once Pepsi releases an advertisement, the other day Coke releases an advertisement, and then one distribution wagon goes there, and then they try and distribute, and they are having some event also, they try and distribute soft drinks, and the other one also does that, and it's a fierce war. It's quite evident in their culture, in their marketing approach, in their strategies, in their pricing, in their advertising, everywhere you would find they are fighting a fierce war. Sometimes if you will try to notice on television season, every now and then both of these organizations, they are putting up advertisements, they are putting up they are sponsoring games, they are going for matches, they are going for other kinds of sponsorships and so on. So that is how this happens when you are offensive. Sometimes a company's best strategic option is to seize the initiative, go on the attack, and launch a strategic offensive to improve its market position. When you talk about these kind of things, and when you are sitting in an organization, and if some of you are working there, and your team talks about being offensive, we have to snatch this. For example, many times when I used to work with media, we used to talk in the morning hours when the season is approaching, for example festival season is coming, and we were trying to snatch as much advertisement space as we could from the competitors, and we were always in discussions with several kinds of clients and people, and then planning for that this much of revenue would be generated, and this season we would be having the largest share in terms of. So if we always used to approach the clientele for their upcoming marketing plans and advertising plans, and used to guide them with different kinds of schemes which we might go for together and so on, so that by the time competition comes in, we would have already snatched so many things. We always used to plan in terms of adding on pages also, making the newspaper thick, and coming up with so much of advertisements. And today also, if you would carry a newspaper on Diwali day, or pre-Diwali days and so on, pre-Holi days, you would find the weight is heavy. So many advertisements are there, and now newspapers they have started going for pseudo front pages, kind of dummy front pages, wherein whole full page advertisements are there, and that advertisement might not be there in the competitors' newspapers, and somehow those readers would feel perplexed about it. They might find those advertisements in other newspapers. They might urge the newspaper vendors to come up with different newspapers the next morning. Probably they would change their reading habits as well. It's a difficult thing. So that is where offensive to improve its market position comes in, and that goes throughout market chain, retailers, value chain, talking to retailers, negotiating with them, coming up with newer retailers, coming up with newer distribution strategy, coming up with a thought process that we should be reaching to every nook and corner of this country or world for that matter, and how to develop that, how to develop customers and so on. It's an offensive perspective altogether. The principal offensive strategy options or principal offensive strategic actions options include the following: offering an equally good or better product at a lower price. You lower down the prices, keep on lowering down the prices up till an extent you start playing, and you announce that we are going for further rebate, we are going for further discounts and so on, and then you have a different kind of a strategy. I remember this campaign. I would have talked about that campaign in one of my subjects, especially integrated marketing communication, wherein Britannia Khao World Cup Jao, slightly behind in terms of timing, but these are memorable campaigns wherein Britannia came up with this kind of a thing. Basically, you purchase Britannia as much as you can, and then under some scheme you can go and see World Cup, and tickets would be provided to you, and huge sales was forecasted, and then production associated with sales was forecasted, and you were on the complete offensive before any competitor could think of that, and then you thought of capturing the season, the market, the World Cup season. India is a cricketing country. Cricket is loved by Indians, and many organizations, they think of those kind of things when they think of offensives and those kind of things. Even in although I always denounce this perspective of thinking about students as customers, but when admission season comes in, we all know there are so many advertisements by institutions and universities and colleges for inviting students with different kinds of perspectives, and there are placement shots given by as far as placement related shots given by their graduates, that I got this job, I got that job, and these many students were placed. I don't know if this is ethically right, because we do not prefer to do that, but again, and I personally denounce this basically, because students are products, not customers to me. As an academician, I look at students as people who have come here to this temple to learn and grow and make a fame for themselves, but still that happens. That is why I have raised this point, and they are on the offensive. Basically, they are attracting students with so many kinds of fee discounts and so on, and then there are coaching centers. It is a huge industry. They offer discounts to the brightest of the students, they offer fee waivers so that they can lift up their situation, basically, because those students, they have a prospect of getting selected, so that would earn fame for their coaching institutions and so on, and it is a huge kind of a situation wherein they enter into this fierce war. So offering an equally good or better product at a lower price, British Airline, EasyJet used this strategy successfully against rivals such as British Air, Alitalia and Air France by first cutting costs to the bone. Costs, the authors, they have used this specific term, cutting costs to the bone, basically slashing almost everything, and then targeting leisure passengers who care more about low price than in-flight amenities and services. Pursuing disruptive product innovations to create new markets. Examples may include Facebook, Twitter, and Amazon Kindle, and so many other products wherein you would realize that they have come up with so many innovative kinds of things for developing the customer. Food processors, they have gone for huge innovations. Refrigerators, they even talk about the number of shelves they have in the door, and the cooling the levels, 5-way cooling and insulations, and so many things they do keep on doing in terms of attracting customers. And then energy saving certification and ratings, they have also become a very important element of an offensive strategy, in offensive strategic steps in due course of time. And then further, the third point is leapfrogging competitors by being first to market with next generation products. The timing of release of the products, going ahead with the product. For example, that similar technology, similar products are being developed by several kinds of people. So they go for IPs, filing for intellectual property rights and so on, to acquire those rights before the competition can do. But competition is doing that differently, so they are going for different kinds of intellectual property rights and so on. So the point is that they are coming up with a similar kind of a thing. Let's go for the launch first. And Microsoft got its next generation Xbox 360 to market a full 12 months ahead of Sony's PlayStation 3 and Nintendo's. Why? Helping it build a sizable market share and develop a reputation for cutting edge innovation in video game industry. And you may search for Statista to find out which product grew. But again, the point is that we should go ahead. It happens in movies, many times you would realize that this Diwali this movie is going to be launched, and the ex producer also coming up with a launch, and basically then they are going a week ahead or a week later basically to actually cater to, because the viewers are the same, and if it is launched slightly ahead of or slightly in time, and you see that kind of a timing matters, that kind of going ahead with, because for example similar kind of a storyboard is being pursued, a simile sort of a thing, basically some automotive is being launched. Many producers, they have been working on, manufacturers, they have been working on e-scooters and e-motorbikes and those kind of vehicles, and launching time of those vehicles matters a lot. So heavy motorcycles and those kind of vehicles, the launching time matters a lot, and so on. So and the timing of many times these days it's very fierce when launch of vehicles is planned, because all the manufacturers, they are coming up with newer kinds of models, and and if someone knows that someone is coming with a hybrid kind of a model, and then the producers, the manufacturers, they try to go ahead in terms of launching their own vehicle many a times, and you would realize there are YouTube videos wherein they keep on giving you a glimpse of that this vehicle is coming this month, or this July, this August, this manufacturer is launching this kind of a vehicle. We keep on anticipating, and sometimes our anticipations go waste, but many times you find that a newer vehicle has come to the market and so on. Toyota Hi-Cross came up with a bang, and it's doing well. Pursuing continuous product innovation to draw sales and market share away from less innovative rivals. That is again a point, because we know how innovative we are, what kind of technological space we have acquired, and so on. And then fifth point is using hit and run or guerrilla warfare. It's war, hit and go, to grab market share from complacent or distracted rivals. Many times rivals, they are big and they realize that, oh, no one can touch me. No, it's a fortress, no one can hit it, let these people grow. Ghadi detergent came up with a very specific offensive strategy when they acquired a very substantial market share in no time, and other manufacturers, they had to take them as a competitor. Otherwise a local manufacturing organization or localized manufacturing kind of thing which a manufacturer is pursuing, limited distribution space which a manufacturer is pursuing, it is not required to be considered as competition, but they were taken seriously. So that kind of a thing. And here comes Netflix and Blockbuster. In the early 2000s, Netflix adopted a hit and run strategy against Blockbuster, the dominant player in the video rental market at that time. While Blockbuster focused on its brick and mortar stores, Netflix capitalized on emerging DVD by mail and later streaming technology. How to hit and make a mark, basically. You see, the competition is big, basically. Have you seen wrestling sometimes, wherein this giant opponent is being dealt with, the slightly feeble opponent tactically, with lots of kind of energy and tactics and so on. By offering a more convenient and cost effective alternative to traditional video rental stores, Netflix rapidly gained market share, eventually leading to Blockbuster's decline and bankruptcy, as the authors say. There may be other reasons they would have gone for. And you see, complacency motivates the competition to be more offensive, complacency of one side, and that we will talk about in case of takeovers as well. Sixth element is launching a preemptive strike to secure an industry's limited resources or capture a rare opportunity. Preemptive strike, that is, you foresee and you plan and you hit at the right time basically. There are many war movies, especially in case of submarines and those kind of tactics, preemptive strategies basically. And to capitalize upon here, to capitalize upon industry resources, you reach to the right point. I remember there is a very important case study of Syntex water tanks, which was which is a very talked about case study, wherein Syntex water tanks, they foresaw that what would be the shape of water tanks in this country and what should be the shape of this of water tanks in this country and over the top water tanks, and then they went for plastic based water tanks and went for acquiring a large supply before competitors could think of. Akai Television also went for that kind of an offensive by preempting the situation. So, and they captured a rare opportunity when the color television scenario was changing. There was huge margin which was being enjoyed by manufacturers. They were big and they were large, and Akai came up with lots of price discount, a very limited pricing, very low price television, and they acquired or they negotiated with the suppliers and they assured the supply, preempting a huge sales, and they went for that, and it was a successful kind of an attempt which Akai made. What makes a move preemptive is its one of a kind nature. Whoever strikes first stands to acquire competitive assets that rivals can't readily match. Syntex water tanks is all about that. They captured a huge market. Tata Solar is about that basically. They captured a solar market basically, hugely wide open market before anyone could think of. So, examples of preemptive moves include securing the best distributors in a particular geographic region or country and suppliers also, obtaining the most favorable site at a new interchange or intersection in a new shopping mall, and so on, and so many things basically. Earlier there was a situation wherein the petroleum companies, they used to go for best of the spots in the city for their retail outlets, and they were into fierce competition, although many of them were government supported companies, but definitely they were into competition with each other and so on. Today you would find that this kind of a competition as far as retail and distribution setup goes is very fierce amongst highway outlets, wherein you would find joints, finding the best kind of a place where people would stop and why would they stop. Lots of analysis being done on this kind of a thing. Even between schools it is happening. Mount Litra acquires a particular kind of a place and space wherein they come up with this kind of a strategy that this should be this far from the city and so on, and so many things are analyzed as far as this situation goes. Then there comes defensive strategies. The purpose of defensive strategies are to lower the risk of being attacked. We should be defensive enough if we are offensive, and if we cannot be offensive, then we have to be defensive. So, to lower the risk of being attacked, weaken the impact of any attack that occurs, and induce the challengers to aim their efforts at other rivals. When defensive strategies usually do not enhance a firm's competitive advantage, they can definitely help fortify the firm's competitive position, protect its most valuable resources and capabilities from imitation, and defend whatever competitive advantage it might have. It may be through IPs, it may be through having very strong relationship with your suppliers and retailers if you are smaller and you are not that big, and if you are not forecasting that kind of a sales and so on. Defensive strategies can take either of two forms: actions to block challengers or actions to signal the likelihood of strong retaliation. Now, what does blocking the avenues means? The most frequently employed approach to defending a company's present position involves action that restrict a challenger's options for initiating a competitive attack. For example, A defender can grant volume discounts or better financing terms to dealers and distributors to discourage them from experimenting with other suppliers, or it can convince them to handle its product line exclusively and force competitors to use other distribution outlets and so on. And they can go for this kind of a deal and legally binding documents before anyone could come and approach their distributors and value chain partners. The goal of signaling challengers that strong retaliation is likely in the event of an attack is either to dissuade challengers from attacking at all or to divert them to less threatening options. Either goal can be achieved by letting challengers know the battle will cost more than it's worth. Signals to would-be challengers can be given by publicly announcing management's commitment to maintaining the firm's present market share, speeches, plans, maintaining their commitment towards the market, publicly committing the company to a policy of matching competitors' terms or prices. Then comes the timing, and before I go to the timing, have you seen that movie Border, wherein when the Pakistanis were about to attack, our forces, they were loudly saying Bharat Mata Ki Jai, so that they were perplexed. They realized that it's not a small unit of a less number of Jawans who are facing us, it's a large unit. Their voice was so fierce that the opposition realized that they are going to fight with a large unit, and that gave them a jerk, because they thought that they are just going to cakewalk, and they could not. That was salute to the defence forces of India. So there are strategic actions a firm can take to complement its competitive approach and maximize the power of its overall strategy, as I said, and timing is very important. When to make a strategic move is often as crucial as what move to make. Timing is especially important when first mover advantage or disadvantages exist. Under certain conditions, being first to initiate a strategic move can have a high payoff in the form of competitive advantage that later movers can't dislodge. Moving first is no guarantee of success. However, since first movers also face some significant disadvantages, because the timing of strategic moves can be consequential, it is important for a company's strategist to be aware of the nature of the first mover advantages and disadvantages and the conditions favoring each type of move. Amazon was one of the first companies to establish a significant presence in the online retail space. By being a first mover, Amazon gained a dominant position in the market, becoming synonymous with online shopping for many consumers, and we all know Amazon has a large market share. Walmart did that in a different kind of a space. Many organizations, they did that. Amul did that in this milk segment basically, and they have been ruling as far as the situation goes. LIC did that in insurance, life insurance space, and so on. There are several kinds of organizations, and these organizations I have been talking about time and again. Why? Because they have definitely created a mark by moving first. Although it is not always advantageous to move first. Reva came up with the car, they moved first, but ultimately they could not maintain the flow because probably they were ahead of times, or they did not have those kind of resources to support their first mover, being the first mover in the renewable energy based car segment, and they struggled, they went for that, they tried to develop the market, and finally they sold themselves off. I would be coming back to you with lots of elements associated with as far as strengthening a company's competitive position in terms of scope, which is the third element, and then I would be moving ahead with adding on to this discussion in my next session. Till then, goodbye.